Well, good evening, good morning, good day. Whoops. Where is it? I got to find the rookie made a bad mistake. Where is it? And it's hard because I'm on a bunch of different platforms now. There it was. It was over on Trovo, our new platform. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing everything we can to grow, everything we can to expand. We're trying to get this message out to more and more people. And there's some growing pains, but I hope that you will be with us and will watch with us and will be part of the growth. I know that some of you liked the applause. I know some of you hated the applause, but we're going to be going very shortly on terrestrial radio, and I don't think that'll sound very good over the radio. So we are kind of ixnaying that. But one of the big things that I really enjoy about this audience is that so many of you are so not well-read, but also you watch a lot of things. You do a lot of investigating. Damn it, I hit the wrong button, but sorry. And I can't remember who it was, to be frank with you, that said, hey, this guy named Alex Tsakiris, you need to check him out. So I went and I looked at his website. I watched a couple of interviews that he did. Actually, I watched most of one interview he did with Whitley Strieber, and I thought, I like this guy. And I just had a chance to talk to him for maybe 15, 20 seconds, and I already know that we're on the same page. He is the mind behind Skeptiko, a great YouTube channel and we'll let him tell you more about it. He's also written a couple books we'll let him tell you more about. And he's interviewed just about anybody that is somebody in this genre. And he made a great statement when he was interviewing Whitley that he likes to just let it be an organic introduction. And he knows more about him than I know about him. So without any further ado, I want to welcome in a guy that I think I'm going to be calling my friend. His name is Alex Tsakiris, and he's from Skeptiko, Science and Spirituality. What's up, Alex?
Hey, you know what? Same. Felt the same, bro. It's like you sent the invitation, and I didn't know a lot about you, but I just took a glance. I was like, hell yeah. And then
that's kind of what you wrote back. It surprised me. It made me feel really good.
Then I listened to you on Tripoli.
Oh, I love Sam.
And I had just been on Sam. I was just on Sam's show a couple weeks ago.
Now, you weren't on Sam, right? You were on his show. Let's just be clear.
Yeah. No,
good.
not on.
I feel better.
And you know, one of the opening comments I had would be right out of your thing, Jeff, because it's like, you know, frickin' Sam, I came on to talk to one thing, but you had Jay Dyer on last night. Isn't he a Christian? I mean, I love Jay Dyer. I love all the stuff that he's saying, and he's breaking down about the occult and the signals and all this, but he's a freaking, doesn't he realize he's complicit? I mean, when are they going to stand up and say, yes, we are complicit. We apologize. Now let's go forward. And as part of going forward, we're going to tell you all the other evil, weird shit that's going on that you should, you know, kind of look out for. I can buy that, but you got to come clean. So I started diving into your stuff, dude. What's this one? Jesus was an MK Ultra murder victim. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I love that. That is classic.
And then I think the follow-up was Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane with a naked boy. Happy New Year. Alex, let me ask you a question, because I ponder this all the time, and I don't usually like the answer I come up with, because I was 25 years a Christian minister, 20 full-time, 5 years trying to convince myself to get the hell out of there. How many of the Jay Dyers and all of these big Christian people, how many of them know and they just don't want to admit it?
I don't know. That is a question. That is a Skeptiko kind of question. But let me kind of be clear on one thing, because I'm not a hater on Christians, because I believe that they sure as heck got they're in the right ballpark as opposed to the atheist. So yeah. when I heard you, the thing that really turned me on to you is the combination of that and then this, what is this other one? realization versus revelation.
Ah,
Oh man. What I call it is spiritual disintermediation. Yes, divinity. Yes, God. Yes, unlimited spiritual potential. You don't need someone, it's like, you have a spiritual experience and there's some guy coming in around like, oh, hold on. You didn't really have that. Let me tell you how to navigate that. And it's called in my church, you don't need any of that. And that sealed the deal for me with you, Jeff. It's like we are kindred spirits. It is about that spiritual connection. It's just why take that dangerous step that could get you into all sorts of crazy stuff.
Absolutely. And Alex, is there ever been a more stupid idea than the idea that everything that God is can be fit in one book?
Yeah, there is a more stupid than that. And you know what it is? It's science's insistence that you are a biological robot in a meaningless universe, and everything about your life is therefore meaningless. And the love you felt for your child the day it was born, that was nothing than a random firing of your brain. How they have sold that to, smart PhD, I talk to them all the time, senior people, how they've convinced they can even say that with a straight face. So yeah, they're neck and neck there, but
that's true. Now, you wrote a book called Why Science is Wrong About Almost Everything, or something like that. Talk to us a little bit about that book as you created a nice segue for yourself there.
Well, I came at this, so I was kind of a business guy. That was my thing. And when I got done, when I made the hit that I wanted to make, which is always my goal, was, I was brought up Greek Orthodox, but like I tell people, Greek Orthodox Church is a lot like the Jewish tradition. I mean, you're getting together and they're talking about, hey, are you getting paid? And how are you getting paid? And, let's get it done. And then secondarily, let's go eat some kutumbiadas in the rotisserie room over there. But it was about money, and that's how I was brought up. And that's cool. That's great. But yeah, I always assumed that everyone on the next leg of their life was going to say, okay, big picture question, who am I? Why am I here? And that's what I kind of took off doing. And I had this little thing called podcasting. This is a long time ago. I started like 13 years ago. But I was like, I want to talk to these guys. How do I do it? Create this, I got a microphone, I'm going to interview for your book kind of thing. So the point being that I looked at it from a science perspective. I'm a computer science guy, and I have kind of a science-minded kind of thing. So that was my go-to. And it took me a while just to realize how full of shit. Can I say shit?
You can. You can say fuck, shit, whore. Oh, you could even say cunt if you wanted to. I'm not.
You said terrestrial radio, and I kind of got that.
No, not now. Not now. That won't be in for a couple of weeks, and then we won't be able to say any of those things.
Okay, I don't know if that's a move forward or back, but
I'm not sure either.
But I just realized how full of shit those, because I was actually at the University of Arizona getting my PhD in artificial intelligence.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, because computers are my kind of thing. And then I started a little company doing artificial intelligence called MindPath Technologies. This is way back in the day, Expert Systems Day. Anyways.
Now I know why I like you so much, Alex, because I always like to make sure that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. And I feel very comfortable right now.
I don't know. We're going to move in a lot of territories because, hey, Jeff, believe me, I am coming here. The reason I'm coming here is because I got a lot of questions for you, because my latest project has been to really kind of dive into and unravel this Roman Jewish, kind of, Atwell is kind of a friend of mine, known for a long time, but I think he's kind of left some of the pieces and you have some of the pieces. So that's where I want to get. But, back to this book, that the premise turned out to be simple. I'm not as smart as I might make myself out to be, because it took me about 100 interviews to figure out that these guys are full of shit, and that the fundamental thing that they've just, and at first I thought it was accidental, and now I understand that it is conspiratorial. It's not an accident, but this idea that they've generated that consciousness is an illusion. It's all a product of your brain. There's no spirituality, all that stuff. I mean, that is a cooked up, scripted social engineering message that they haven't followed legitimately for at least 50 years, when they're off doing remote viewing and MK Ultra. All that stuff presupposed that materialist stuff was out the window. So they were doing it. And then they had the kind of hidden college kind of thing where, so anyways, that was the first book, Why Science is Wrong. And the thing is, if you get consciousness wrong, which they have, then you really can't get anything really right, because you always have to factor in what was the consciousness angle. If consciousness is fundamental, and you can't, anyways.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent. And you just said something about the scientists. They've cooked it up. It's a conspiracy. And we just asked how many of the Christian people are in on it. If we asked how many of the science people are in on it, there might be similar numbers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of the useful idiot phenomenon going on there. Stalin is famous for coining that term when he heard about all the communist student uprisings in the United States, and he was like, "This is fantastic, useful idiots doing my work for me, so I don't have to do them." And I think that's a misunderstanding that a lot of people have. It's not like these scientists are getting together in a smoky room in the back, deciding how to cook this stuff out. No, all you have to do is lay a little bit of cheese down in the maze, and they follow it. And as far as religion, we've known that from the edge of the beginning of time, and I'm no different. We're all susceptible. We want community. We want that sense of belonging. We want to believe all the things that cults do. We are programmed to eat that up like Sunday dinner. So it's not surprising.
That's why cults do those things. There might be a connection.
Yeah.
We've discovered a conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my. And then I'm fascinated by this, and I don't usually write down questions, but I knew that we'd start geeking out, so I needed to write something down. Why Evil Matters. That's another book you wrote. What the hell is that about? I love the title. It's so provocative, and the cover's really well done too. It'd make me want to pick it up. Talk to us about Why Evil Matters.
Well, it's somewhat this stuff just kind of came organically as I did more and more interviews. And both the books are kind of a compilation of a lot of interviews with some commentary. And again, I can't stress this enough, because I feel like I didn't have a plan on a lot of this stuff. It just kind of came up. And the thing about Why Evil Matters is how science and religion fumbled a big one. And it's just right out of your thing. I mean, it's just what you do, Jeff. It's like we are in this forced choice situation. Either your life is meaningless because you believe in science and you believe you're nothing and you're meaningless and the universe is meaningless, or door number 2, take my book, and that's going to tell you everything, and then I'm going to command and control your life. And I love the other term. Yeah, what is it? The fear and control matrix? Fear and guilt, blood magic, trauma-based mind control matrix. I ain't joking, man. That is incredibly succinctly kind of what it is. In my opinion, I love the way you've constructed that. So
it only took me 41 years almost, Alex, to boil it down to that, literally.
I believe that, because I think these things, when you really get them and they resonate with people, which that does, it's not accidental. It is a lot of work to really refine the words. And there's
no excuse for time, is there, really? There's no substitute for time.
Well, time well spent, because
exactly
how many times, your history. I mean, I think you could tell me that you see a lot of people in your former profession that have been there for 20 years and haven't moved 1 inch. You know what I mean? They haven't grown spiritually. They haven't grown, right? Am I yes or no?
Well, see, the thing about it, Alex, is if you're a pastor or an evangelist, this really applies to you. The smart guys that want to stay in that business, They're nice. They tell stories and give sermons that make people feel good. They get paid. They work a couple hours a week. Everybody's happy. I never got on that program, Alex. I never got on that program. And I got to a place where I really did get paid well for a few years because I got into the right genre. But I've never been the guy to, and there's so much of it on YouTube, say the things that the people want to hear, pretend like you're being edgy, but never really touch the third rail, which would be Christianity. And you can make a lot of money. And that's why a lot of these guys and girls on YouTube and on podcasting, they can decipher the ills of the CIA, the NSA, the Fed. They can break down why America's a corporation and not a country. But for some reason, their brilliance of their brilliant investigatory powers come to a screeching halt when it comes to the Bible. They can't subject the Bible to the same scholarly inquiry they object everything else to. And if you really are afraid to do that, you're smart enough to realize why you're afraid to do that.
Well, let's talk about that, because that has been my experience as well, is that a lot of haters, and it's kind of tough, right? Because a lot of these people, and I'm going to immediately offend, maybe not your listeners, but you see the mind control. You see the mind control kick in. It's almost like a reflexive reaction. I've seen it on my forum. People who are, with me on 100 shows, and suddenly you go, hey, I'm questioning the historical Jesus thing. And it's just out of left field, kind of irrational things, right? I mean, it's a trigger thing.
It is a trigger thing. And I wonder, is it, an MK Ultra type trigger thing, or it's just, there's so much, and it's just so deep. And one thing I want to ask you before I forget, you've interviewed so many people, and folks, if you go to is it Skeptiko.com? Is that your website?
Yeah.
If you go there and look at the list of people that Alex has interviewed, I mean, these are the luminaries in all of the areas. He talks about the frontiers of science and consciousness, research in consciousness, biblical religious studies, near-death experiences, UFO, gives voices to other skeptics. You've interviewed hundreds of people that are at the top of their game, maybe thousands of people that are at the top of their game. As you interview these people, Alex, are there 2 or 3 characteristics, 2 or 3 commonalities that you say, are there some common threads that run through all these people?
Not really.
Really? That's not what I wanted to hear, Alex. I wanted to be able to copy it and get it done.
No, and it's kind of interesting because I feel like I'm always evolving and changing, and the journey that you've been on, very few people will go through that in their entire life, So I kind of feel, again, I feel a natural affinity that you're moving towards something and you don't even know what it is. And that's what I'm doing too. I'm not, please unsubscribe to Skeptiko. You don't subscribe to this show, but please unsubscribe. That's not what, I don't care about that. I want to try and figure this stuff out. And so maybe that's why I don't have the common characteristics. I kind of take anyone who seems like they're in my path.
Interesting. Have you interviewed Chris Jericho, by the way?
No, but the name sounds familiar. Who's
Chris Jericho? If you know him from WWE wrestling, is one of the big wrestlers.
Oh yeah, of course.
He's now on a new wrestling forum called AEW, All Elite Wrestling. He's got a podcast, Talk is Jericho, one of the top podcasts out there. I had the privilege of being on with him, and I got to hang out. We hung out for a couple hours on, he was in Dallas on a tour. He's a rock and roller too, a band named Fozzy, which is awesome. And I got to listen to him, and I got to talk to him. And he's a guy that's, not at the top of his game. He's at the top of 2 or 3 games, but he's relentless, Alex. He works and he works and he works, and then he works some more. He's so motivated. And I asked him, I said, Chris, what'd you want to be when you grow up? He said, I wanted to be a wrestler and a rock and roll star. And I'm like, bro, here you are. And he's like, yeah, here I am. So if I try to get people to understand, if you can just, you're here to find out what your great basic purpose is. And if you can find that out, you can become it. Alex, what's your great basic purpose? What do you think?
Well, as I described, I thought it was this success from a business standpoint.
Right.
And that's what I really felt kind of complete when I had that. I was like, okay, got it.
Yeah.
San Diego, beach, house, setup, kids, wife. And it's not like I had a lot lacking. I just, again, I thought this is what, so now, let's move on to these kind of deeper things that you want to do. And that really took over me. It took over me in a spiritual journey in really in every sense. And that's what it's been, and it continues to be for me. And that's what I'm looking for in all of this, is a deeper understanding of how to be, how to connect. I'm kind of spiritually dense, which, again, I have like all these personal questions for you. And then I also have these questions about what you know about this biblical stuff. But what about your spiritual, and I don't know this, maybe you've shared this with the audience many times, but your spiritual journey, not your professional spiritual journey, but your spiritual journey. What's that been like?
I don't really understand your question.
Your connection to this expanded, extended consciousness, divine, God, light. Did you always feel that? Did you feel that when you were a minister? Did you lose it and then regain it?
That's a good question. When I was a kid, I felt a connection to the divinity. I felt a pull to the divinity. And of course, I grew up in the Confederacy. My parents are from Kentucky and Tennessee. We grew up in Florida. So when you're in that environment, it is all about, going to church, and it's either Baptist or Pentecostal. We were of the Pentecostal persuasion. So when I decided to answer that call from divinity, of course, I answered it through the Pentecostal church. And I've always been a kind of a big or go home kind of guy. So if you're going to be in church, you might as well be a minister. If you're going to be a minister, you might as well be an evangelist. If you're going to be an evangelist, you might as well be the second coming of Jimmy Swaggart. I mean, why go halfway, right? So that's what I did. And I realized one night, and boy, I don't know if I've ever confessed this, but I realized one night I still remember where I was in Spirit Lake, Iowa, preaching this huge multi-state youth event. And I was walking, I used to do the whole walk back and forth, prance across the stage. And I got so into it that I couldn't even feel my feet on the floor. And I realized, Alex, what I was trying to do was, how many times can I get these people standing up and cheering, let them sit down and get quiet, and get them back up standing and cheering, let them sit down, boom, boom, boom. And I realized, whoa, this is not what I thought it was, and this isn't what it's supposed to be. So I started to do a little bit of mental, personal inventory and started thinking more along those lines. And then my oldest daughter was born right around that time. And I remember holding her in my arms in the delivery room. And I'm like, there's no way that this beautiful little child here has original sin. And that kind of started something of, and I started studying the Bible, and I realized that Paul and Jesus are teaching two different religions. And I kept studying more, and I realized Paul and Jesus aren't even real. They're just stories. And then I realized, well, what is this? And I never ever had the temptation to say it's all bullshit, there's no God. I never went down that road. But I remember my wife left me for my piano player. And at the same time, my best friend's wife left him. So he's like, if we're going to be miserable, let's go to Hawaii and be miserable. I got there a couple days before he did. So I'm sitting on Waikiki Beach, a condo across the street, and I'm surrounded by empty Heineken bottles and cigar butts. And I just in the fetal position, just weeping because my life was over. In my church, you gotta, if you get divorced, you can't be a preacher anymore. And they're paying for my house, they're paying for my car, they're paying for my clothes, they're paying for everything. So I'm in the fetal position, crying on the floor, and I just realized that, you know what, this is my moment. And I kind of closed my eyes. I just said, okay. And I'd even thought about jumping off I was like 50 stories up. I even thought fleetingly about jumping off the balcony. And I said, nope. I know that there is something beyond, and it's not God that I hate, it's religion. And it was so funny, Alex. I walked out on the balcony, I had that thought about I was going to jump, but there was this really thick netting that was like screwed in. Even if I wanted to jump, I couldn't have jumped. It was funny. And that is where I realized that it's not religion. It's not God, it's religion. And if you think you hate God right now, I'm willing to bet you that you don't hate God, you hate religion. And that's kind of where it all started, Alex. And now it's just and then to realize, yeah, there is a God, there is a divinity out there, but shit, I got the spark of divinity right here in me. And I'm divine, I'm sovereign, I'm free. And you start realizing that. And if you really get that you're divine, you're sovereign, you're free, you're like, well, damn, I can do just about anything. And you know what? I just started doing everything that I've always wanted to do. And Alex, like you decide what you're going to do. You make a plan, you work your plan. And if you work really, really hard for 4 or 5 years, you can become an overnight success.
So, Jeff, when you were on stage, did you have any experiences that you really, really couldn't explain, kind of from a spiritual perspective, that were, really compelling to you, that made you feel like, hey, yes,
dude, I was in, we were in Bangladesh doing this great big meeting. And I would preach for a couple hours, and then people would line up down the middle of the church, and you're praying for them. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but it's 2 or 3 hours of just praying for people. And this guy came up to me wearing dark glasses, and you're doing the Stevie Wonder thing. Like, this is, I forget his name. He's blind. He wants you to pray for his sight. I'm like, okay, great. I'll pray for his sight. So I pray for his sight, and I didn't think too much about it. And then he took off his glasses, and not only did he not have his sight, Alex, he didn't even have no damn eyes. And I'm watching him, and these empty sockets, the eyelids start fluttering. And I wait another 10, 15 seconds, and the eyelids look like they're filling up. I'm like, what the? And then about 2 minutes later, this guy that didn't have any damn eyes opens his eyes, and they're as blue as yours and mine, and he can see.
Oh my God. Wow. What do you do with that? What do you do with that?
Take an offering. That's step one.
That's classic.
Get a good miracle. Take an offering, baby. And
where do you think, seriously, where do you think that's coming from? Where do you think is it coming from one source, JC? Is it coming from the infinite possibility? Is it?
Oh, no, Alex. I was way beyond praying in Jesus' name by then. I was praying in the name of Yeshua, because I had grown and developed so much. But the question is valid, and all of these years, I'm still not sure I have the answer, but it was either the manifestation of Manuel, his name was Manuel, the manifestation of Manuel's faith activated by the whole ritual and the whole environment that allowed him to manifest his intention, or it was just the power of my intention. Or you could say I don't like the word channeling, but the allowing myself to become a conduit of the divine energy. And I found this out, and this is going to piss people off. You can heal people in the name of Jesus. You can heal people in the name of Yeshua. You can heal people in the name of Dean Winchester, Mickey Mouse, whatever name you really think works, it will.
So one of the things I've become interested in, and again, my approach, because I'm kind of dense spiritually, so I kind of like the literature. The after death stuff is really interesting to me. Did you encounter any of that? Did you work with people who were near death or who felt like they had come back from, near death experience kind of thing? Did you encounter that?
I never did, but let me tell you a little story. Have you ever heard the name R.W. Shambach? He was a great old-time tent evangelist, and I was a tent evangelist for a while, and it's just the greatest thing. And I met him many times. We went out to dinner and stuff, and he had a revival where he was preaching, and some guy died in the audience, right? Had a heart attack, died. And Shambach's like, I'm preaching good. Get that dead corpse out of here. Put him in the back. He didn't want to mess up the meeting. So he goes in, but somebody pray for him. So he goes in, puts the dead body in the back, and he finishes his meeting. He's sitting at Shoney's. He realizes, oh my God, I forgot that dead body. So they go back to the back for the dead body, and it's not there. Long story short, next night, guy walks in. I was the dead guy. So I've heard of it, but I've never personally seen it.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Never personally seen it. And I'll tell you what my thought of it was, though, Alex. And I had this when I was still a preacher, because it's always go to the light, go to the light, go to the light. And I had this, I thought it was an epiphany, and I think it might be true now that I know about soul harvesting, soul farms, soul recycling, Romans 8:11. I had this idea, I had this picture of these people that have died, and they're going towards the light, and they're feeling all good and all happy. And right before they get to the light, out jumps the devil and says, ha, I gotcha. That's that's my only thought on it. So that's a terrible answer to a very good question, but.
Well, yeah, it's, what about anything else on the road that, I've heard you say you did a lot of exorcisms, and one of the things I found interesting was the point you just made is that you can do it in the name. It's another intention thing. And I get that. And we're co-creators of this reality. And, we don't even understand what this reality is relative to that other reality.
I'll make a confession to you. I say you can cast out a demon in the name of Mickey Mouse because I've done it.
Yeah.
I've literally done it, and it does work. That's how cocky I got at the end. I really did it.
We're talking about that book, Why Evil Matters. And one of the guys I interviewed for that book that I really appreciated, because I always tell this story, is this guy emailed me and he was like, Alex, love the show. You don't know shit. You don't understand the difference between evil and darkness. And he went on to tell me he's a clinical psychologist from Grand Rapids, Michigan. His name is Tom Zinzer. Legitimate guy, PhD, Texas A&M, worked in the mental hospital in Michigan. So he's doing his thing, and he's treating patients, and he's getting bored, and he's getting, this isn't working, man. This isn't doing it for me. And I don't even know what's doing it for them. And he was doing a lot of hypnotherapy. You're afraid of spiders, you're afraid of water, this and that. So this woman who is like an administrative assistant part-time, barely even knows her, comes in and says, hey, Dr. Zinzer, I kind of overheard you talking about Monroe Institute and out-of-body travel. I'm talking to a spirit, and he wants to talk to you. So he's like, Zinzer's like, hey, okay, I'm in, whatever, let's see. But he maintained he says it in a very professional way. And if you watch videos in this guy, he does lectures to therapists, he's a very straight kind of guy. He said, I realized I was totally off a reservation with this stuff. And that kind of like you have all the knowledge that you've accumulated about the Bible and about biblical study and all that, but you realize you're totally off reservation. You can never go back. So that's how Zinzer was. He was like, but I got to go there. This spirit starts communicating to him in a way of how to work with his patients. And he's maintaining the protocol now. So he's going in and he's maintaining the protocol that he's always done. But now this guy, the spirit is saying, Jared, if you want to put a name on it, saying, hey, you're going to meet with Jeff.
Was Jared really the name?
Jared was really the name.
That's interesting.
Like I say, you're going to meet with Jeff next week. Tell you what really the problem is. Jeff's deceased mother in spirit form is hanging around, and she doesn't realize the confusion she's causing, but she's really causing a lot of problems in his life. Wow. So he goes down, he pursues this, it starts working. Now he starts working with a lot of kids or adults who as kids were victims of satanic ritual abuse. And again, some people don't understand that, thinks stuff is made up or doesn't. This is real. That stuff really happened. Real. You can probably tell me some stories, and I want you to in a minute, because I got ones too. But anyways, and I think there's a key to one of the things that you said earlier, because what it's all about is dissociative identity disorder, right? So it's about creating that divide in the personality, and that this is a way that an entry point for sometimes some of this was his finding that these people were being interfered with, messed with by malevolent spirits that had the intent to kind of screw with these people's lives. So that became, we talked a lot, and that became part of I've incorporated that into my belief system, that that is real, for lack of a better term, that we can get screwed with by malevolent spirits, and
you know what, Alex? It's a lot easier for a spirit to gain entrance to somebody that's already screwed up. And it's almost like, and I think this is true, it's almost like the preachers and the priest and the malevolent spirits are working together, because it's job security for both of them.
And then what about the other side of the street? Like you like to talk about MK Ultra. What were they doing? Exactly this. You talked about my interview with Whitley. Whitley was 8 years old in San Antonio, Texas, and he got put in a special gifted children's program where they locked him in a cage and brought little animals over there and killed him in front of him and said, "You're going to tell your mother." Again, traumatize, create a multiple personality as maybe a way to weaponize this spirit. There's a lot of shit we don't only begin to understand, but you just have a really key part, because if you look at that tent revival, there is something a little bit off about what they're trying to do there. What do you think about that? Take that to the next level.
Dude, you is it just a bunch of hooting and hollering? Well, there is some real stuff there, so real that one day we were doing a big tent revival somewhere in Oklahoma. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was outside of Tulsa, and we're doing this great big tent revival. I mean, a tent that you put like 500 people under this tent. Red and white tent, huge tent, and all of a sudden I'm in the middle of preaching, and up roars like 4 or 5 fire trucks. I'm like, what the hell? And the firemen come in. I'm talking to them. They're like, we've had like 4 reports of flames on top of this tent. And there were no flames, but it was that, again, take an offering. But so something was happening, Alex, and it wasn't me. It was something else. There's some other, and I'm not a guy that really likes to talk about demons. I'm not a guy that really likes to talk about angels, because it's so easy to blame everything on them or wait for them to save us. I'm talking about going inside. But how the hell and you've done a lot of interview. You remind me of Napoleon Hill, because Napoleon Hill interviewed all of the great financial guys and wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. And how can you explain multiple people seeing huge flames on top of a tent that wasn't on fire? How do you explain that, Alex Tsakiris? Sorry.
Yeah, no. The closest I can get, which is exactly what we're creeping around, is that the reality that we're calling reality is, and this is what every spiritual tradition tells you too. So you get this out of the Gospels, but you get it from every spiritual master, is that there's another reality that's a greater reality. And this is the lesser reality. So the beings that pop in and out of this reality are, to a certain extent, have mastered that extended consciousness greater than we have, in a way that makes, for them, maybe it's like, oh, no big deal. I can do that. That's.
And what's interesting is we had 300 people under that tent, but it wasn't the people under the tent that were calling the fire department. It was people that lived in the surrounding area that had nothing to do with it. So can you imagine the power of that energy that was being transferred out strong enough to cause somebody that wasn't half crazy and sweaty and talking in tongues to call the fire department? And that's why, Alex, I still remain optimistic in our situation. It looks like we've lost. it looks like it's over. It looks like the good guys are going down, but I've seen small numbers of people manifest tremendous amounts of energy. And like my friend John Lamb Lash said famously a couple of weeks ago, I still think we're going to win, Alex. And he says we're going to win, in a horse racing analogy, by a gnosis. And I think he's right.
I'm not sure that's not where I live spiritually. I get that. And I'm engaged to a certain extent. I'm not, in a cave on a mountain, meditating all the time. One of the things that's been super influential to me is the near-death experience.
Yeah, talk to us more about that. Just take the con and talk to us a little bit, Alex, from Skeptiko.com and the Skeptiko podcast. You got to see it, guys.
Well, first off, Jeff, I've never had a near-death experience. I don't know anyone personally, other than through the show, who's had a near-death experience.
My wife was in a coma for I want to say a week, 10 days. And she says that she wanted to die, but came back because they told her she had something to do. And when she came back, she was pissed. She didn't want to be back. So that's a near-death experience. Why haven't I talked to my wife about this on this great channel? What's the matter with me? So back to you, Alex.
It would be really interesting. I'm super interested in anyone's near-death experience story, because as you're kind of alluding to with your wife, pardon me, there's some definite common patterns that are meaningful and important. The most important one is realization versus revelation. It's that you are connected to the divine, and you get there and it's like, this is home. This is where I always meant to be. There, the only judgment is you judging yourself, going, Jesus, Jeff, why did you do that? And everyone around you, or God, or the divinity, is saying, it's okay, bro. It's okay. You were learning, you were growing, but you can't. That's the only judgment. It's not fear. It's not guilt. It's not. And this is not Alex saying this. This is, go to my buddy Jeff Long at the radiation oncologist, Uma, Louisiana, who's, a doctor. And he got interested in near-death experience and started collecting these medically surveys, they do surveys all the time. Another thing, I jumped 3 steps ahead. When I tell you that this guy has collected 3,000 near-death experiences, it's actually 4,000 now, through sophisticated medical surveys designed to figure out if people are lying, designed to analyze medically whether or not those conditions would really lead to the medical emergency they're talking about, or whether they're making the thing up. And that protocol for doing that is consistent with the way that you'd interview people to find out if they're depressed. Because think about it. If you're depressed, you're the only one who can say that. If you've had a near-death experience, you're the only one who can say that. What comes through from that research is just what we said. It's about love. It's about connection. It's about love, and it's about that feeling of being home. And the judgment that comes with it is only from you. You don't need anyone to tell you this. But back to your wife. Once you get past the big stuff, there's all sorts of different things. People, just listen to this lady. I was on this podcast just the other day, and Rosemary, and I forget her last name. She had an unbelievable near-death experience. Went through her husband committing suicide right in front of the family. Then she, these things are often, she gets cancer, which you can only imagine the grief and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Boom. She has a heart attack and dies. She has the near-death experience. And it's the decision point, which doesn't make any sense. Like your wife is talking about, you're going to come back, or you're going to stay? We want you to stay. No, I think I need to go back. But if I go back, this is what she says. If I go back, I want to be healed. I'm not going back.
I love it. She made a deal. Good for her.
And you know what they said? They said, all right. She goes back, stage 2 cancer, gone. The doctors are like, well, what is this? 14 days later, no cancer, totally healthy. Grief, gone. The statistics on near-death experience, this is, and I just had Jeff Long back on just recently because I said, in the social sciences, Jeff, no one gets a 95% answer on anything. Fear of death? Definitely not a fear of death. 95%. Was this experience real? 95%. Even 20 years later, say, I don't know, but it was definitely real. Realer than real. The most real thing I've ever had.
Wow.
So that's been very influential to me as just an observer, not a guy who's had it. Mm-hmm. So I think there is a greater. So in that sense, the war, the battle, even the Gnostic, kind of, I see the light as being infinitely greater than the dark that we spend so much time on.
Before we leave this subject, I wanted to ask you, you've seen the books and you'll see every now and then on YouTube, I died for 45 minutes and I spent 45 minutes in hell in the flames and with the demons and with the devils. And I came back to tell you, Jesus is real. What about those guys?
This again, if we're just going to be straight up, bro, there are all sorts of different accounts, and we can't bullshit about that. We can't explain it. But what's interesting, so two things. One, the jumping off point for this, again, I always like to stick it to the frickin' bullshit science that we've been so indoctrinated with, is that this totally destroys all the neurological models that you are meaningless and all that, because these people are fucking dead. Dead. By every definition we've ever had and ever used for what clinical death is, they fall in this category. One of the researchers that you'll come across is a guy named Dr. Sam Parnia, formerly at Cornell, now at New York Stony Brook. He is one of the leading experts in the world on resuscitation, not on near-death experience, which he also does on the side, but he's like an expert on resuscitation. One thing he'll tell you, to call it near death is completely a misnomer. These people are dead by every criteria.
So it's not near dead. They're fucking dead.
They're dead. So we now have have to look at this stuff differently, because we now can no longer say it's brain, it's delusion, it's whatever it is, it's something else. But now you have to incorporate in exactly what you're talking about. You get different accounts. You get the hell stuff. And you know what? If anything, it's underreported, Jeff.
Yep.
It's underreported because people, you come back, that's probably for your ministry. You come back and say, I saw that. They go, what do you do? What, I don't know that you went and saw it, But the other theme that comes through that, and I don't want to paint it over and say that all the time, but like, one thing you'll hear is, I was there and the stench and the fire and the hopelessness and the screams. But then I saw a speck. He said, I don't even know how I saw it, but there was like a speck of light. And suddenly I was drawn to that light and I came to that light. And so again, these are these stories that people are making up in this extended realm or whatever. But that light turns out to be more like what we...
It's so weird. Have you ever been to the Louvre in Paris?
Oh yeah.
And you've looked at the Mona Lisa, obviously.
Yes.
I remember I'm sitting there looking at the Mona Lisa, and this is what an idiot I am. And I noticed on the lower right part of the Mona Lisa, there's this little kind of a blemish. And I'm staring at this blemish. I'm looking at this. I'm trying to be, and I'm like, all of a sudden I realize I'm looking at the freaking Mona Lisa. And instead of enjoying the beauty of the Mona Lisa, I'm looking at this little blemish over here, and wow, it's what you focus on, isn't it?
I mean, that would be consistent with a lot of the other things you're saying about some of the extraordinary experiences you've had. It's where you bring your attention, where you bring your intention, that we are co-creators. I mean, not to speculate too far, but is it too hard to believe that since we're clearly co-creators of this reality, that we're co-creators of that reality too?
Oh, I am absolutely convinced of that. I think, and I haven't been able to prove it, obviously, but it's consistent with my studies, and I'd welcome your feedback. When we die, if we're not divine, sovereign, and free at our death, we're going to get ushered into a realm that is consistent with our expectation, where we will be, in my opinion, continue to be used as a battery until we figure the thing out. And Cynthia from the chat room asked, what do you think of reincarnation, since we're on this topic?
I get to that, but man, you got to finish what you were saying there, that you're kind of onto something.
Didn't I?
Well, I want to hear more about that, because I've heard you say that in the past, that your working hypothesis is
they're called soul farms.
That if you don't kind of get all the way there, you will kind of, is that the kind of the karmic come back and face those things? The
reason why we come back, when we do come back, and we don't go to where we want to go, is because we never get to the place in this life where we're divine, where we're sovereign, where we're free, able to make our own decisions. And when you die, we know only this dies. There's something in us that is beyond physicality. And when it's just that thing that you're in, and just imagine, we can't really, many of us remember when we were born, but you're in the womb, it's warm, you hear it, everything's cool, and all of a sudden, the bright lights. And it's got to be a lot like that when we exit this physical body. And if you haven't trained yourself, if you haven't got to the place, again, where you're divine, sovereign, and free, and you can make your own decisions in that great time of stress, you're going to either, if you believe that you're a dirty, rotten sinner, born with original sin and on your way to hell, you will be on your way to hell. You will find an experience consistent with your expectation. If you believe that you've been a good Christian and Jesus is going to carry you like a lamb and put you on a cloud and give you a harp, you'll probably have that experience as well. If you think grandma's going to meet you, grandma will probably meet you. But until you are sovereign enough to decide where you want to go and what you want to do, just like you did when you hit your lick in business, you said, okay, this feels good, I accomplished this, what am I going to do next? You didn't get forced into doing anything. You did what Alex wanted to do. And that's what we have to get to, in my opinion. That's why I'm all about unindoctrinate yourself. That's why I'm all about you're divine, you're sovereign, you're free. Yes, they're catchy slogans, but they mean things. And I'm trying to give people the information to get themselves to that place. Does that make any sense at all?
I really love this spiritual sovereignty. Yes. I think that's a great turn of phrase that, I heard that first from you, and I think it really, really resonates with me. Reincarnation, real quick. So again, my investigation into reincarnation is the science. Turns out we've done some science on that. And a guy who started it at the University of Virginia, his name is Dr. Ian Stevenson. And maybe some people have heard about him.
I've heard of him.
And then the guy who followed up on that work and is doing it today is a guy named Dr. Jim Tucker. These guys are at UVA. You're from Kentucky, but you understand UVA is no bullshit. I mean,
it's the Harvard of the South.
And it's deserving of that. It is a prestigious university, and they do solid stuff. These guys have done solid work. It's very, very compelling evidence for reincarnation in the way that we think about it and hear about it in the stories. Not a reading of the Akashic records, but and you can go, I'm sure a lot of people listening to the show have seen the YouTube videos, but the kids are most compelling. And the one that I just saw recently.
That's true, yeah.
Oh, so Leslie Kane is a woman I've interviewed a couple times, and she has a Netflix show on right now, or a show on Netflix that based on her book, and she's in it, called Afterlife. Best thing you'll find on Netflix. Not saying much, but there you go. Just go watch her episode on reincarnation. But what I love is this little kid who Jim Tucker is interviewing, and the mother's there, and the kid is saying, the mother's saying, it was kind of hard when she told me, yeah, you're nice, but I really want to be with my real mommy. And then she said, my mommy with the pretty hair.
Oh.
And it turns out she has recollection of being child of an African American who, in pretty recent, and the photos, all the, and they start going through all this stuff that just matches up directly. She's able to direct him to the playground that they used to be on, and they find it, and the Brooks or Rockland or whatever. Just watch that, and you will not come away as a doubter unless you're just kind of in that rut that you just can't get out.
I was a pretty big doubter, and then I was in the Air Force for 7 years, and I know the complexity of a aircraft cockpit and the overwhelmingness of it when you see it for the first time. You're like, ah. And I remember watching the video somewhere, it was on TV, some little like 6-year-old kid. They put him in the cockpit of it. I think it was a MiG, and he's just boom, 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 boom. No, don't push that. He's ready to start the damn thing and fly it away. And there's no way. Great. There's no way.
I'll have to look for that one, because I heard a related one, and the kid, and again, these kids, strangely, and we have no way to explain it, but there's like this window where they're open, like between 2 and 5, 6 years old, and then it kind of closes. This kid's walking past the toy store, and he looks and he goes, Mom, I like that plane there, but they have the bomber configuration wrong on the bottom of it. And she's like, huh? Yeah, it's supposed to go to the, turns out, like to your story, the kid has all these recollections, fiery death and a bomb, and he recalls the name of 2 of the people who were in it, and they're able to track them. I mean, you read those stories and you're like, no, man, they ain't making that up.
Alex, are you surprised? You wrote the book about why science is wrong about almost everything. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you surprised at the power of science as manifested by going outside and looking at everybody and what they're wearing and what they're doing?
In terms of just the conformity and kind of that stuff? Oh, man. I don't even think we want to go there, because we could get off there.
Yeah, we have to be careful, but...
Well, not just because we have to be careful, but there's so much. I mean, I really do. I'm serious. You think I'm just... I want to know about this Roman stuff and like related kind of to the Joe Atwell stuff. And I don't know if anyone else is interested in it. I'm intensely interested in it. But just touching on that for a second,
Sure.
I think you are 1,000% onto something. I start with, and I just came to this realization relatively recently. If they can convince you that you're a biological robot in a meaningless universe, that you're meaningless, that your relationships are meaningless, that when you held your daughter for the first time, man, they can try and convince you of anything. So they're going to do the global warming stuff. And even though all those islands they said they were going to be flooded 30 years ago are still around, and that was their failure, and they can get you to wear that mask, even though, of course, a mask works in the laboratory. I get that. When you're 5 years old and your mom sent you to school, what did she say? She said, Jeff, cover your face when you talk. We get that. But every time they've tested it in clinical trials in the real world, masks do not result in a reduction in the spread of influenza or bacterial infections. And we have a bunch of reasons why that might be, but that's just what the finding. You can't get away from the data. That is the data. So when we sidestep science in order to, control, this is all related. I mean, this is not my expertise, but it becomes my expertise when it's like, if they can bullshit you on the fundamental nature of who they are, man, they're halfway there. They can get you to do just about anything. What do you think?
I think it beggars description to me, for me to look at smart people and to see what they're doing, to see what they're allowing, and to see how they're not thinking. I recently went to Florida, saw my parents, and here's a guy that's a brilliant guy. He's double masked. I used to have these motorcycle goggles when I was dumb enough to ride a motorcycle that, they're tight on your face and they kind of have some padding so that, some give when the motorcycle shakes. He's got these things strapped on his face like goggles. And I'm like, dude, you're smart enough to know. And we're standing at a steak restaurant. I'm like, can you smell that steak? He goes, well, yeah. So let me get this straight. You can smell the steak, but the particles that are infinitely smaller, you think that's protecting you.
But hold on. Just you might be right, but let me be clear about the science I'm talking about.
Okay.
Masks work in laboratory settings. We can prove that because you can go down that bunny hole and they can show you the mask and it reduces What they also show, and they've tested this for years, right? Because for years, it's not like this is the first worldwide pandemic, if you will.
Right.
We had the swine flu, we had and they always looked, do masks work? So they go and they said, because, hey, logically, it should work because in the laboratory, it keeps the crap from coming out of your face and crap from coming in your face. But gosh darn it, every time we test it in clinical settings, it doesn't result in any reduction in the spread. Well, the reason that it doesn't is because we're touching our face, we're, and that we don't know all the reasons.
Yeah.
All we know, and this is how science is. This is called the null hypothesis. We cannot. All we know is that whenever we test it with carefully controlled clinical trials, and I can show you because I did a debate with a guy from PhD from Carnegie Mellon biology who did all these YouTube videos, and I said, "Come on, bro." And I told him exactly what we're going to do. And he came on, and it's easy to crush these people because he was even presenting science. And I go, look at the science you're presenting. It says inconclusive. And he goes, yeah, but I think what they really mean. No, you can't interpret it. It says results were inconclusive. We were not able. We went and saw if the control group versus the group that was wearing the mask, was there any difference? No, there's no difference. Now we have all the data from all the counties that, that county that didn't have it, the county that did have it. Consistently over and over again, there is no statistical significant difference. And we can speculate from here till the cows come home why that is. I don't know why it is. I understand that masks can stop stuff from coming out of your mouth and stop stuff coming into your mouth. But I also understand that it could still not lead to the reduction, and that therefore the only logical thing is that if you want to wear a freaking mask, or if your dad wants to, I don't give a shit. Just there is no possible reason to mandate it other than further implementation of the fear control matrix kind of thing. It's just in your face, we have that because the science doesn't support it.
Yep.
Science does not support it.
Alex, who's the most interesting person you've ever interviewed?
Again, I don't, man, I couldn't even take a stab at that.
That's awesome. Glad to hear it. What do you think is in the future? Well, let me ask, I want to wrap up. I didn't want to be respectful of your time. What are the goals of Skeptiko, and what can people expect coming down the pike from Skeptiko?
Well, what they can expect is you are going to come on to Skeptiko.
Me?
And we are going to finish this.
I saw how you did Whitley. I'm afraid to come on.
No, you saw it. I love Whitley.
Oh, I know you do, but I love how you called him out. No, Whitley, you can't say that. Yeah, you put him on the spot, and that's what you call. I love it. That is real back and forth. That's the real world, and that's a smart guy and a smart guy respecting each other, saying, no, wait a minute, you're not going to get off that easy. Let's talk about this.
Right on, but let's take it down to the next level. You can't write a book about Jesus and then say you're not interested in hammering out the historicity of it and whether that is fundamental. Until we get to that, we can't talk about your new vision of Jesus and then you're going to slip in Bible. I'm not against that. And like I say, I must understand that people have extended consciousness experiences and Christ consciousness experiences. Mm-hmm. I accept that, even though I don't know what that is. Yeah. But if you want to talk about history, I'm going to talk about Josephus, and I'm going to talk about, And I love Joe Atwell, and you've had him on your show, and you've talked to him. But and Joe's going to come back on because I think he's missed a point here, because the Josephus's first main thing is a psyop against the Jews. He comes out of that cave after he does the group, thing. That's people. See, you're going to come on. We're going to tell the whole Josephus story, even though my audience has heard it like 50 times from me and gets tired of it. Josephus, who he is. I think Josephus knew where the gold was. And I think that the key to that is in the Copper Scrolls as part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. A lot of people don't. Do you know what the Copper Scrolls are?
Are you talking about the Cobran?
I think am.
I'm pretty familiar. It's so funny, Alex. You're onto it, because I think that Joseph Atwell, Bart, is it Ehrman?
Yes.
John Lamb Lash. They've all got really big pieces of it, but there's just this little thread that's hanging that nobody has really been stupid enough or daring enough or audacious enough to pull. But Alex, I say we grab that bitch and yank it.
Do we have a couple more minutes?
We do.
So I interviewed this guy, and again, I really love when I just kind of stumble across these interviews and I don't even know exactly why I'm doing them.
Kind of like this one, right?
No, I told you, bro. I read your thing. I'm like, this is my soul brother here. This is my Dharma brother. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Motherfuckers.
I interviewed Dave Brody, who is an attorney and kind of attorney turned author, very good author, and just really super into archaeology and all this kind of stuff, which they do 10 times the work that these frickin' biblical scholars, and I've interviewed so many of them on the show, comparative religion, they're just so full of shit 90% of the time. And there's a good story from David Brody on that. Dave Brody writes this book called Romerica. And
Romerica.
He has archaeological evidence of 2nd century Romans in America. Now, what kind of evidence? He has a bunch of gold coins, all apparently from a ship that's docked there. He has from the 1890s or something like that, Army Corps of Engineers, a fort shaped like the is it menorah, the Jewish exactly shaped like that. There's no question. It's not like he manufactured, this is from the Corps of Engineers. He has all this evidence he piles up. But here's the story, Jeff, that was kind of one of the keys. Exactly like you said, you got to be crazy, because you do have to be crazy to kind of go into this. And you got to be audacious enough to do it. He says, what I think happened is there's this fabled 9th Roman Legion. And this is like in history, like the 9th Roman Legion, no one knows in history what happened to these guys, because they got sent up to Britannia. They were in the Welsh territory for like 30, 40 years. They were a Roman Legion. This is like part of history. This isn't conspiratorial. And then there's the second uprising in Jerusalem, in Judea, it's like 130 or whatever. So one of the groups they call in is the 9th Roman Legion, sail down there. Again, this idea that these guys can't sail, like the Phoenicians, they've sailed all over the place, sail down there, and they go and do it. And they disappear. They
disappear.
This is what history tells us. We don't know what happened. They never went back to Britannia. They never went, and they disappear. About this same time, we start picking up all these gold coins, all this archaeological evidence. We have fire pits. We don't. Dave does. His hypothesis that turned the key for me is that they cut a fucking deal. Because the other thing is, like, if you're the high priest in Judea and you're getting sieged yet again, another siege by the Romans, which is 90 days in the making, do you sit there on your gold and just go, well, guys, we're going to fight? You go bury the shit, right? Yep. So the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Copper Scroll, it has been translated. It is a treasure map. It says 110, whatever they call them, in their thing, 3 steps below, 10 feet down. It is, and the last line, Jeff, is This is a copy.
Oh,
So
shit.
somebody else had it. So Dave turned me on to the idea that the second uprising in Judea, they cut a deal. They say, we'll tell you where the gold is. Let us come with you. And they all scallywag away to the U.S.
And I'll give you another. I'll give you another little. Okay.
Hold on 1 sec.
Please.
The light bulb goes off. This is who Josephus is. Josephus didn't prophesize that, the idea. I prophesied that Vespasian will be emperor, and he gave me his villa in Rome along with two. No, motherfucker. He took you to the gold, Jack. He said, hey, pal, you're going to get there. You don't know where it is. I know where it's at.
Let me tell you how it started. Josephus, he gets captured. They're going to kill him. But Josephus says, if I tell you something really good, will you let me live? And Josephus told him, that temple that you guys are surrounding, because Titus wanted to keep the temple intact and present it to his dad as a great gift. The Romans like to keep stuff intact. But in this, I'm speculating. This is a fact, but I'm speculating a little bit. Josephus says, yo, brah, did you know that in the mortar between those blocks, there's gold and lots of it? So then they said, oh, shit, let's take every block apart and let's get the gold out of it. And then Josephus says, well, I know that you're still going to kill me anyway, but I got another little story for you. Boom, it fits in, Alex. It all goes together.
What's your source on the gold between the blocks?
That is straight rabbinical, Pharisaical knowledge. They put gold in the mortar. That's straight up. That's not even debatable. Not even debatable. There's no reason.
No stone left unturned.
Exactly. And who said that? Jesus. They put it in his mouth, and it just, when you Atwell shows us who said that. Josephus said that, and then they put it in Jesus's mouth as prophecy. Josephus wrote it as history, and then we're gonna It's great. Your rate of fulfillment of prophecy is really, really good when you write it after. Exactly. Backdate it. Then it's good
as you want it to be. It doesn't have to be 100%.
Dude, we just hit on something big right there. That's a big one.
That is, and that's the kind of stuff that we need to continue to kind of pull apart, because so you're going to come on Skeptiko then.
I am.
And we're going to have that.
Absolutely. And you see, folks, this is what happens. I'm pretty damn sure that Alex Tsakiris and I could have sat up here and argued with each other about some things. I'm pretty sure there's things that we don't agree on. And I'm pretty sure that's true. But instead of that, we started talking about things that we're not sure about or things we do agree on. And the synergy is amazing. And if we could just learn to do that with each other on a continual basis, it'd be a much, much better world. But this is why, folks, they say don't talk about religion and politics, because they know that if we start talking about that shit, we will figure it out and the game's over.
Yeah, I love that. I think of that all the time because I heard that as a kid. And I was like, yeah, I mean, the ultimate control matrix, right? Control and fear matrix. Like, don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. It's like, but isn't that the essence of who I am?
Exactly. Alex, tell everybody where they can get a hold of your stuff.
Skeptiko, come on there. Jeff is already coming into the lair, so you got to check it out. It's Absolutely. In the background here, and you'll find it if you want it. You'll find it, and it's all for free. There's no ads. There's no paywall. There's nothing like that. So it's just.
And guys, something that really impressed me about Alex is, I looked at his stuff. And I read his stuff, and I'm still reading his stuff, and it's so voluminous. There's tons and tons of it. It's all empirical. It's all objective. And he's not like the guy sitting on top of the mountain saying, I know it all. He's like the guy saying, look at all this stuff we've got. Look at all this information. Come and read it, learn it, understand it, and take the time to think about it and make your own decisions. Alex, I think you're doing a real service to humanity, and I think you've carved out a great little niche in the conspiratorium, and you're invaluable, and I can't wait to come on your show, and I can't wait for you to come back.
Love it. I can't wait, man. We got We're going to be audacious. That's the only way to do it.
You know, that word to me, I don't know if you know this or not, you probably do, but General Patton, his whole thing was about being audacious. And that's the way I've tried to live my life. I want to be audacious. You know, we both were in business. I remember a guy told me when I was in sales, very young, I was a skinny, poor salesman. And he said, Jeffrey, there's no money in your comfort zone. And guess what? There's nothing remarkable in your comfort zone. Be audacious. Be a skeptico. Get the hell out of your paradigm. Break out of your box, and life will be so much better for you. Alex, I am stoked to meet you. I think this is the beginning of a real friendship, and it's definitely the first of more conversations between the two of us. Skeptiko with a K, science and spirituality. He's Alex Tsakiris. Don't miss him. Alex, any last words?
No, man, that's awesome. Looking forward to it. We'll keep it going.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it so much. We'll talk real soon.
Okay.
Wow, guys, that was just amazing. You know, it was just the weirdest thing because one of you sent me, hey, check out this guy. I don't know this guy. And I look on his site, and I mean, I didn't even look, and I just thought, yeah, I want to have this guy on. I don't know why I did it, but I sent him an email, and, you know, I'm old. I'm 58 here in a few days. And it seemed like he sent right back, and it was like, hell yeah, I'll do it. And I'm like, whoa. And it's just so, you meet so many assholes in this life, and he might be a little bit of an asshole. I'm an asshole. Maybe that's why but you meet so many people that take away from you. You meet so many people that make you feel down. You meet so many people that make you feel dirty, like you got to go take a bath or something. It's so nice to meet a person like Alex that makes you, I feel pumped up. I feel excited. I feel motivated to learn and grow and understand. And I'm so happy right now we're on Twitch. We got people watching us on Twitch. I love Twitch. We're going to be broadcasting live on Twitch because I can put the Twitch feed on my website the day after so you can see the whole show if we have to bail off of YouTube. We're also on Trovo right now. We are live on Trovo. And we got some people watching us on Trovo, and I didn't even know how to spell Trovo, which is amazing. And, of course, we got all them people at D Live, and I told them that I would remember to make sure and dole out the lemon because I forgot it last night. So let me go ahead and dole out that lemon right now. It's a little early, but let me dole it out so I don't forget. We're going to go ahead right now and distribute those rewards. 28, 27, 26. Get ready to receive your lemon, bitches. And then I couldn't get it to work on my damn site today. I'll be honest, I sat down here too late. But anyway, there's so much good stuff going on, ladies and gentlemen. And I like what Alex said. He's so much focused on, I mean, there's not even a question in his mind that we're winning. It's all about victory. Etheric Bliss, Sailing Away, Maple Syrup 2.0, M6, FG00, Kwai Chang Dave. You got lemon. And wow, I'm pumped up. I'm excited. So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we are going to have a little bitty baby commercial from our great people at Focused Life Force Energy, my longest sponsor. I really love these guys. It's a great, great product. Go to jeffreydarty.com. Get the high consciousness field sent to your location. You won't want to be without it. And once we go ahead and have this little
FLFE subscription.
Jeff, hold on, bro. It's not your time yet. That's the other Jeff, not me. Once we do this, we will come back. We will open up the phone lines. And we will take your calls until the end of the show. We'll talk about some of the plans we have coming up. Some great, interesting things have happened today. And I think you're going to really, really enjoy what's coming up. So I'm Jeffrey Darty. It's Late Night in the Heartland. We will be right back after this message with your phone calls.
All FLFE subscriptions include the brain optimization program. This is brain optimization for our modern world, which today is including more and more EMF or electromagnetic fields. And we look at those as either positive electromagnetic fields, which the earth and our bodies produce those, or negative or consciousness lowering electromagnetic fields. And that's really what we're concerned with. So this brain optimization program is designed along with the rest of FLFE to provide more life force energy, or as Chinese medicine calls it, qi, to the body. And the body is optimized through the flow of qi and life force energy throughout the body. And the brain optimization program provides more of this energy to the brain, particularly where it's most needed.
The FLFE environment is supported through something we call programs. The programs are positive declarative statements that are measured using consciousness kinesiology as taught or explored by Dr. David Hawkins. And those programs are very high level of consciousness thought forms. If you're familiar with the Hawkins map, they're at 999 out of 1,000 or higher. So there's a lot of work that goes into those. It's a very labor-intensive process. It's a labor of love, but it does take some time and effort. So they're very specifically crafted. And in the brain optimization program, they are oriented to optimize the brain. So during the day, the FLFE programs support increased functioning in the brain. Increased functioning are things like increased concentration and stamina, so we can study longer and retain more information, or be more present for those meetings or conversations. At night, the FLFE environment supports enhanced rebuilding of the physical aspects of the brain, which is very much in alignment with the innate intelligence of the body. We just use the environment to enhance that so that our quality of life is increased.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is focused life force energy. So I had an interesting thing happen to me today. Did I get a phone call or an email? I think I got an email that said, hey, and it was from this radio station in Utah, this radio station that covers a potential audience of 3 million people. And they said, hey, and we won't mention any names, even though you'd know the names if I did. We had a broadcaster that was doing this 2-hour block for us, and they're not able to consistently meet it. So we'd like to offer this 2-hour block to you for this. They didn't say this, but it is for this ridiculously low price for a year. And we're also on all of these, apps, those apps everywhere. So within a couple weeks, we're going to shoot for Monday, but might be the next Monday. We're going to expand our work, and we will be here as normal from 10 p.m. till midnight Central Daylight Time for Late Night in the Heartland. And then we will go from midnight until 2 a.m. on the radio station KYAH in Utah, terrestrial radio, plus all of the places that they are in and on. So it's going to greatly expand our audience. And if you just can't get enough, if 2 hours aren't enough for you, we'll also put it on YouTube, and it will be FCC regulated, so we can say we'll be on YouTube. So we'll also be on YouTube. So it might be Late Night in the Heartland, cuts off at maybe 11:45. Gives me time to take a nature break, brew some more coffee, and then we're back for 2 more hours on terrestrial radio and all that other stuff. Potential audience of 3 million just in Utah, and then the other millions that are in the virtual reality. It's going to be pretty awesome. So we're going to get that done. Remember I was saying with Alex, there's nothing remarkable in your comfort zone. It's requires me to learn some things and do some things that I haven't done and that are outside of my skill set. But, you know, they say you can't teach an old dog a new trick. I'm about to prove that wrong. I'm an old dog, but I can still learn a trick or two. I almost said I could turn a trick or two. I don't think that's what I really wanted to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, what a great interview we had tonight. Powerful interview, fun interview, kind of a wide-ranging, weird, just a couple guys talking interview. I think you enjoyed it, and it won't be the last one that you hear. I love people that are real, and I love people that are on top of it, and he definitely is. That's Alex Tsakiris. Thank you, Bodhina, who's on Twitch. I love it. And Skeptiko with a K. I misspelled it on the thumbnail. My bad. The phone lines are open. 913-279-0831. 913-279-0831. Kathy says old dogs can learn new tricks. We got an old dog. His name is Merlin. And he's old. He's like really old. He's black, but he's turning gray. That's how old he is. And I taught him a new trick. I give him these cookies, these milk bones at night. And I said, you know what? I bet I could get him to bark for his milk bone. And now I just say, Merlin, I have a question for you. Do you want a cookie? And he barks. So he's an old dog. He learned a new trick. So let me go ahead and get the microphone queued up. We got the phone lines open. And I think this is Lap Dancer. It's Late Night in the Heartland. You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty.
Hey, Jeffrey.
I was right. It is Lap Dancer.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It's going to be a great time. I think it's going to be really good for the program, the D program, and really good for the work. Thanks.
Yeah, I think this is awesome because we need more of that to, help people.
You know what? I'm not even gonna. Right now I want to respond to a trolley comment, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to let it go. So, what's on your mind, girl?
I'm just so excited. Life is just, there's things that I'm dealing with, but at the same time, it's like things are opening up.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, seeing that happen for you too, and like seeing your show getting like expanding, I'm just seeing that like a lot of people that have started, when they started watching your show, it's like their lives are changing, and I think it's really awesome. And like how you were saying, this gentleman that you just had speaking, he was just saying that the world is changing.
It is.
Things are opening up, and I want to ask the rods a couple questions.
Why doesn't that surprise me? Go ahead.
It shouldn't by now.
It shouldn't. It doesn't.
So I'm going to ask it silently in my mind.
Okay. They're ready. Go ahead.
Okay.
They say yes.
Okay.
You got another one?
Yeah. Maybe I have some advice to ask you.
Me or the rods?
Maybe it's you.
Okay. What's on your mind? Step into my office.
So, are you familiar with Ho'oponopono?
Ho'oponopono.
Yes, that's it. I always mispronounce it.
Well, it's a really weird Hawaiian word. I am somewhat familiar with it. Which brings up a great story. There was this guy like 7, 8, 10 years ago that was kind of a mentor of mine. I don't even know if he was real. It might have been a Don Juan kind of thing. His name was Dr. Andy Toltek. He just freaking disappeared, but he taught me a lot of great stuff, and he was into Ho'oponopono. So talk to us about Ho'oponopono. It's supposed to be a very, very elegant technique for spiritual and self-improvement?
There's a doctor, I think his name is Dr. Hugh Lam. I can't remember his full name. I could be mispronouncing it. He worked in a, I'm just going to put it this way, an insane asylum.
Uh-huh.
And he worked, I believe, with the worst case scenario people in Hawaii. And he was able to cure the whole ward of all the people in his ward with this technique that he was basing on ancient Hawaiian healing, and it's based on this prayer, and it works best even if you aren't in front of the person, if you are like doing it from a distance.
Yep.
So it lends credence to like distance healing. It really helps us to understand it. It was the basic of it is it's a prayer, and you say, what he would do is he'd open the file of the person and he wouldn't read it with judgment. Instead, he would say to that person, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Those 4 things. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you.
Mm-hmm. That's great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I could be totally misinterpreting what happened, but
no,
I
think you're pretty much on the right track. Laugh dancer. I need your help here. I need you to help me. I'm trying to find myself. I need you to talk me off the ledge. I just got a message in the chat room that says Donald J. Trump is rumored to be the reincarnation of George S. Patton, according to Michael Jaco. That motherfucking hack stole that from me, and he's selling it as his idea. He's a fucking punk.
Well, just say the prayer.
What's the prayer? Is the prayer fuck you, Michael Jaco, you're a hack bitch? Is that the prayer?
I mean, that's just gonna rile up the hornet's nest.
See, I'm a little more like Ho'oponopono Delaney. Delaney says, steal from me and your vehicle dies. Your truck gets broken. I should be more on the Ho'oponopono.
According to a friend of mine, a healer, he says that sending pure love to your enemies is much more effective than sending hate.
Yeah, but that fucking piece of shit who works with another fucking piece of shit that used to work with me, they stole my shit. Oh, well.
It's true. It's 100% true. And I would agree with you. I mean, I've had people do that to me too.
Yeah.
You know, like I used to be a poet. And one time I was listening, some of my poetry, I mean, I didn't publish it. I just would print it up and I hand it out. And after I did that, I saw it in a song that somebody wrote. And I'm like, that's stolen. That's ripped straight from one of my poems.
Tell me the Ho'oponopono things again.
I'm sorry.
But even if you've been bitched on, you still say I'm sorry?
I know.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What's the next one? I'm sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you. Can I add fuck you very much or no?
I'm sorry?
Could I add fuck you very much on the end of it?
Well, that kind of
I'm playing with you.
I mean,
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Yeah, I need to get back in. You know, you've been sent tonight to tell me to pick up on that trail that was sent to me so long ago about Ho'oponopono and also about EFT, which is the most beautiful healing methodology that I've ever seen, and I have let it fall by the wayside. I got so many oars in the water. Sometimes it's hard to keep rolling them all.
Okay, so this is something I want to point out about Ho'oponopono. We've all been traumatized, all of us. every single one of us, including your enemies. So if we just keep doing the same thing, all we're doing is creating more trauma, and that's powering the matrix.
It is, isn't it? You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
And the thing is if we want to be in alignment with where Gaia's going,
yeah.
I'm not saying that we don't stand up for ourselves, but
how about a new T-shirt that says "Y'all motherfuckers need Ho'oponopono"?
Well, you got to suspend judgment.
I know, but judgment is so fun. And judgment makes for good radio. But anyway, you're right.
True. It's
you're
true.
right.
And I totally understand what you're saying. I totally get it.
But I know they stole it from me. But see, you're calling me to be a better person, Laugh Dancer. I appreciate it.
You're the one who's teaching the world how to not to get unindoctrinated. So it's like you got a big job, man.
Why you got to put that shit on me? Why you got to turn that around on me like that?
Because you're healing the toxic masculine. That's
you know what? Get Dagger just gave you a great compliment. He says, Laugh Dancer is a gift sent from the other side. And you know what? Get Dagger, you don't even know, get Dogger, I know, I don't say it right. You don't even know how right you are, because I've learned through my association with John Lamb Lash, Laugh Dancer, I didn't know much about your people, the Shumash. That's how you pronounce it, right?
Yes.
Amazingly, deeply, fantastically spiritual people. And you are definitely of that lineage. It just oozes off of you. I
appreciate that compliment. It's a very deep compliment.
And you also, because we communicated on Facebook, you've sent me some messages and I've seen your profile, and you also have a tremendous amount of goddess energy flowing through you and out of you too. So you have a great responsibility to keep yourself in the right place, to be a positive and powerful representative of the goddess and of the great tradition of your people. So right back on you, girl.
It's not easy being good.
It's not.
I'm not going to say that you're wrong or you're bad, because, hey, I struggle every day with it. Every freaking day with it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to say you might look into a book called December's Child.
Okay.
It's a series of stories by that were written down of Shumash stories.
Ooh, I like that. I'm all about the Shumash people. There's a great deal of wisdom to learn from the Shumash people.
And their description of the world, there's the world above, and then there's what we would consider like Middle Earth, and then there's the underneath Earth. You might want to read what they say about that.
Oh, I'm definitely looking into the wisdom of your people. What else is on your mind?
There's evidence of a Sphinx in California.
Yes, Robert Stanley will be here Thursday night, and that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about, I think.
Really?
Yep. Robert Stanley is all over that, like, fill in the blank. I mean, he's on it. There's a Sphinx there. There's other megalithic structures right there in freaking Malibu, right? Malibu?
Well, that's Shumash territory.
Oh, that's right. That's where I heard of it too. Yeah, and Robert Stanley and John Lamb Lash. Yep. We don't even know. Yeah, white on rice, Tracy. I was thinking about some other things too, but yeah, you're so right.
There's also a connection between the Shumash and the Hawaiians.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because they're not physically close, but they're as physically close to the Hawaiians as anybody else was.
I'm going to tell you something. They had one of the biggest territories in California. They were the only tribe that created plank canoes, which I guess they share in common with the Hawaiians.
How about that?
And
So they
they're
had
on-
some
they're
interaction.
on-
Somebody said, "Oh,
Yeah.
I should build my canoe like that." And they said, "Yeah, let us help you." And then they were doing it the same way. It's amazing.
And they also have they're on the state seal, and there's a story talking about them going back to Hawaii.
Oh yeah,
Some of our tribe.
I'm sure they did. I mean, could you imagine that journey? That's amazing. Lap dancer, best phone call that we've ever had from you, and one of the best phone calls we've ever had on the show. Thank you so much. All right. It's Late Night in the Heartland. You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, you're live. Let's go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Can I just start talking?
Well, if you would turn down me in the background, we'd be able to hear you, which would be greatly helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did.
Perfect. Yes, just start talking. You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty.
Okay. Thank you. I have 7 points I'd like to go over with you.
Wow.
They're short. They're short, but you know what it is? I'm basically sort of interested in doing this. I'm really on the same page that you're at, this whole indoctrination thing, but it's a slightly different approach, and it's different, and it might actually cure a lot of different problems that are out there in terms of indoctrination, because Christianity is just, of course, one indoctrination. There's a lot of others.
Okay, well, jump into it, bro. Let's start with number one.
Okay, here goes. Now, this is like my Cliff Notes on
Yep.
world history.
Well, let's go cliff. Let's go.
Okay,
Let's do the short cliff.
Okay, after Atlantis, 1 through 7, starting with ancient Sumerian and the Garden of Eden and gods and aliens visiting us and so on. Then they fell, and that's where the trouble got started. Number 2, many new countries popped up all over the place: kings, rulers, presidents, prime ministers, so on. Number 3, okay, you can interrupt if you want.
No, you're. This is
okay,
good. Keep going.
Okay, good. Number 3, see, this is like the critical, like ground zero for the trouble, because right after the fall of Sumerian culture, it took a little while, but gradually everybody, all the Sumerians, all the people who believed deeply in polytheism and they loved their gods, and it was like living in Eden. They loved with their gods. They drank beer with their gods. They had a great time. So then all of a sudden, after Samaria is destroyed by the bad guys, lots of them, along comes Judaism, Christianity, and Mohammedanism. All of them are somewhat congruent with the earlier Sumerian concepts, but the feel and the attitude are very different.
Ooh, good point.
Grim and black and white instead of bright and technicolor. It's like going the opposite of the Wizard of Oz,
Right.
start out and, okay.
Yeah, let's
Then
stay on the cliff notes.
Say it again.
Let's stay on the cliff notes. You're doing good so far.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Number 4, these new religious writings were endlessly edited and modified so as to help the leaders better control their people.
Boom. That's good. That's good.
All of them. All the big, got big pharmacy, and you got big
Yep.
religion all of a sudden. And by the way, I spoke to a guy from India who was a technician for Microsoft, had a big discussion. He said, I was talking about this. He said that in old India, it was the same thing like old Samaria.
Oh,
They had
yes.
a lot of gods walking around. No religion. You had whatever god you liked, and it was like freedom of choice.
Yep. And what's point number 5?
Oh, okay, thanks. Number 5, those religions all strongly taught severe rejection of Sumerian polytheism,
Ooh,
because otherwise you get their heads cut off.
boy, that's
and,
good.
And that would and the problem with this is a lot of problems, but the biggest one is it divided the world into at least 3 categories, like the KM, the Khazarian mafia guys.
Yep.
Because they're like the Romans, divide and conquer. So okay, now number 6, the power establishment has evolved continuously like a dynasty for 1400 to 1700 years. And those MFers have caused all the wars and all the problems just about that the world.
Bingo.
Most people, they just want to be left alone. And, okay.
Absolutely.
Number 7, it may all soon be exposed, hopefully. That's what, rumor has it, if it's somehow.
I love it.
Okay, now, and now okay, there's one last little comment here. the Sumerian culture is like a summary. They went from a bunch of people who did like amazing things, and they had many gods. They drank beer, they had sex with them, and they just had a grand old, it was like the good old days.
Yeah.
And no religion. Give me that old time, no religion.
Yeah.
You know? And then that was changed by force. I don't think anybody voluntarily said, I want to give up all these gods I've been worshiping for thousands of years. They loved her, you know, even after Samaria was crushed. The Greeks picked her up as Aphrodite, and then and the Romans, you know, and each one of them was more and more corrupt in general. So the religions even the old religions got messed up. Like, for example, Inanna was a lot of stuff for the Sumerians. It was love, war, sex, finance, agriculture, all kinds of stuff. And they loved all these aspects of her because they were well-rounded. But the Romans, they were like warrior freaks, and they just like to have wars. So they picked up on one aspect of Inanna. She's a warrior goddess. Okay, good. That's the main thing. Forget romance, love, sex, and having a good time. So, you know, so that's it sounds like you more or less agree. That's my cliff notes. And
that was good stuff, and I do agree with it. Keep working on that. That is really, really good stuff. I don't know what the over-under was on you getting through all 7. I think a lot of people are surprised that I let you make it, but you did it.
Yeah, can I add one thing?
Yeah, tie the bow up on it, and we'll move on.
Oh, okay. The main point of all this, why this approach? See, what you do is you hit them, like come down with a hammer on Christians. You guys are doing this, you're doing this, doing that. So what I'm saying is, yeah, the Christians got all screwed up with the Roman Catholics, but everybody did. The Islamics we're all victims. See, we're brothers in victimhood. The Jews, the Christians, and the Islamics, they were all poisoned by being told, you got to believe in this one God, and here's the rules, or else.
I'm going to end you right there because I don't want you to go past that. We are all victims together of these bastards. But guess what? Turn that around. Together, we will be the victors over those bastards. That's a great call. I didn't think you had a snowball's chance in hell of getting through all 7 of those, but I must that Ho'oponopono must have kicked in and helped me out. Tracy says we outnumber them. I don't know if we do literally, but we definitely do energetically. I like your optimism, Tracy, and I'm telling you, the Noahide is nothing but a distraction. Don't look at the Noahide, because that's the distraction. Don't get your mind on that. Get your mind on who runs everything, who owns everything, and who's controlling everything. Forget the Noahide. It's a distraction. Late night in the Heartland. You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty.
Hey, Jeff, it's Get Dagger.
Is it Dagger or Dogger?
Well, it's my name, right? You know my name. So just say it how my name is.
That's right. Okay.
So it's yeah. You can either way. I like how you said Dogger. It sounds more professional that way.
Well, my son calls himself Doggerty, so it's kind of just sticks.
Oh.
So anyway,
nice, awesome. Well, like I said, congratulations. I can't wait you to help more people like you did myself. And I also want to give a shout out to Lap Dancer. She told me about that Ho'oponopono. I'm probably butchering the prayer there.
Ho'oponopono. So think of a hoe. We all know a hoe. Ho'oponopono.
Exactly. So she told me about that a few months ago, and I've been trying to use it as much as I can to get through all my shit. And it's helped a lot, and I appreciate her, and obviously yourself as well.
She's deep. She really is.
Oh no, she's awesome. I was called in last night, but I had a huge splitting headache, which turned into a fever. But I threw on some some frozen peas on my head, and I was good to go. So I was able to get through the whole show, which was awesome. So this morning,
I don't usually recommend you pee on your head, but in that case, it's acceptable.
I have tried. I might gross some people out, but I have done some of those practices, and I haven't really found anything that worked. But I mean,
dude, I was into urine therapy for a long, long time. I drank my urine for a long time, and it was
I didn't do it. It worked.
It was very good. It works. But what I found out though is once you stop eating carbohydrates, and we're going to start talking about this more as I'm getting to where I want to be physically. Once you stop eating right now when people are eating carbohydrates and stuff, your urine is not waste. A lot of it is just excess. So that's why there's
And
still a
it
lot of
tastes
good
different,
stuff
too.
in
It
it.
tastes horrible when you're eating all that crap.
But when
too, right?
you are eating just keto and you're not eating any carbohydrates, then your urine is all waste. Don't drink it if you're keto. It's waste. You don't want to do it.
No. Like I was doing it when I was fasting and stuff. So
That's beautiful.
Like
you know, that's the way they do it in India. A fast is always incorporating urine therapy. They have a fancy Indian name for it. And it's beautiful.
I know exactly what it's blanking me right now, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it works so wonderfully.
Oh, and I like I said, when my dad got sick 5 years ago originally, I started looking at all the health stuff. And then when you started talking about comas and near-death experiences, I want to ask my dad about that, because 5 years ago when he went into his coma in Largo, it wasn't looking good. So I never did ask him about that, if he had like anything that happened. And now he's having all these weird dreams. He's not sure if he's dreaming or if it's real, because all the pills he's on. He's not sure if he's hallucinating or if he's, you know what I mean? So he's in a pretty rough spot. So this morning it looked like he was in a drug-induced, depressed, and he looked like he was watching TV, but he was asleep, and the TV, and because he watches Netflix and it wasn't even on. So what I went in and his stomach at 2 a.m. when I brought his ice, his stomach was really bothering him, so he couldn't get to sleep. So I asked him if he wanted to go to his office. He said no, it's starting to feel a little better. So this morning when I went and saw him, I was like, Dad, let's go watch a movie later, a video with Mom and I. He's like, okay. So he went for his nap, and he had a huge nap. So he woke up at 7. So it turns out my mom knew I had this video, but my dad didn't know. It was the wedding of my mom and dad. So I turned it on. And I don't think they've seen it. My brother put it together. So I've never seen it myself. So it's pretty cool. So he loved it. You could see him smile. And then after that, it was like they went skiing, and then he saw my brother and I when we were young and doing all sorts of cool stuff. So my brother put this together, so it was pretty awesome. Unfortunately, he only lasted about an hour, then he was getting tired. So we'll watch the rest of it tomorrow. But I mean, I think that, just a little bit like that. And I never seen the other, because when they got married, before they had me, they sold their cottage in Muskoka to buy our house. So I never saw them. So they showed, my brother had the videos of them fixing up the cottage, like putting
nice.
Making they lived in like a little shed before they built the cottage. And it was pretty sweet just to see that, because I'd never seen it, and they probably hadn't seen it in years. So it was pretty awesome seeing them watch that, kind of just seeing my dad kind of light up for a little bit. It was pretty awesome. So
that is awesome. Thank you so much for that, man. We're all rooting for you. We all, this really is in many ways a family. And Delaney Black Pearl Jones sends her Black Pearl healing energy upon everyone's families. And don't scoff at that. I know she's crazy, but she's a good kind of crazy, and she got some good stuff. So we appreciate you, Delaney. It is late night in the heartland. Turn me down so I can talk to you, please.
Hey. Yeah, I've turned it down.
Hey, Joe. What's up, brother?
So I've got a theory.
Okay.
Here. So, we all have been through some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some unpleasant surprises.
Mm-hmm.
That haven't done. So, with all that we have gone through, it comes the question of, are we going to be under these circumstances? Are we going to let what happened break us down, to make us crumble? Or are we gonna say, yes, that happened, now we know what we should not do, and we're gonna get back up, and take what happened and become stronger, and to take that little bit of the childhood that it's similar to what that woman said about the Hawaiian prayer. From what I see, that prayer is their word for the pure divinity of a child. No matter what people do to you or do to me, in my case, no matter what, I would just hug them.
That's beautiful, Joe. That's beautiful. And I remember Michael. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful, Joe. Very beautiful. But when I was a preacher, I used to say, and I still say it now because it's true. What was I going to say? Oh, well, Jeff, I'm doing pretty good under the circumstances. I always want to know, why are you under the circumstances? You can be an overcomer. You don't need to be under the circumstances. And here's our last call of the show. It's Late Night in the Heartland. You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty. One more time. It's Late Night in the Heartland. You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty.
Hey, congratulations, Jeffrey. It's Michelle. I just wanted to say thank you also to my Shoemass sister.
Oh, that's beautiful.
For her book referral.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is just, I feel so connected. But I was going to ask you a question and ask something of the rods from last night, but I also, you're running out of time, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But I want to remind you that if you have a show where you ask people to call in about their near-death experiences, I want to tell you about when I died in May of 2013.
Ooh, how long would it take you to tell us about that?
I can tell you something real quick.
Go ahead, please do.
The amazing thing is I woke up happier than I've ever felt in my entire life. Full of bliss, joy, and light. And I was alone in the house. It was real dark in my room. It was the middle of the night. And I was the only source of light. I didn't see any light from
So you were like Captain Kirk. He always knew that he would die alone. But anyway.
I was the light, and I read my biomorphic record, and then I decided to reanimate my body to come back. But It was a different story than I'd ever. I thought maybe I did something wrong, and I've been angry at my body for what was I thinking, and all the kinds of things. But I think it's good. I think I had more work to do, so that's what happened.
That's amazing stuff.
Happier. I always tell people I've never been happier in my whole life than when I was dead. I woke up in my solar plexus, and my lungs had been filled by my cat. I'm allergic to my cat. Had laid on my pillow, and I had filled up. My lungs had filled, and it had killed me. And I had already evacuated my bowels, but I was really excited. And I looked at my body, and it wasn't Michelle anymore. I was the person that observes Michelle, but I wasn't attached to my life or my story or my problems or any of that. I had no connection to it.
Nice. That's a good story. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thanks for ending the show on a high note. I got to start getting more disciplined and mentioning our advertisers and being right on the time, because we are going on to terrestrial radio. And just to make it clear on that, we'll spend 2 hours doing what we always do, and then we'll spend 2 hours on terrestrial radio plus. So we will have to keep it between the lines for those second 2 hours per FCC regulations. But that's not for today. That's for a week or two away. I want to thank every one of you for being part of this. I want to thank Alex Tsakiris for being with us. What a great interview that was. It was just a lot of fun. And it's the first of many. We've got tomorrow night, Mike King, and he's going to talk about the climate boogeyman. That's going to be a good one. Thursday night, we've got Robert Stanley, probably going to mention Malibu megaliths and also talk about the shining ones. Friday, John Lamb Lash, an abbreviated show, Mandela Effect, and then your calls after that. This has been Late Night in the Heartland. Thank you for making my day.